Hey, this is Coach T. This is week 20 of my C Sharp video diary devlog thing, in which I'm tracking my progress learning C Sharp across 52 weeks, starting in July of 2024 and ending in July of 2025. We're 20 weeks in, which is a long time. I'm pretty comfortable with the language now, and I've been kind of on the hunt for different ways to use it. I actually have started to use it at work. I talked about that, I think, in last week's video, but I came up with another way to write a simple script that I can run on a laptop at work that allows me to track other things that I'm seeing in classrooms. And the nice thing is I can export them to a JSON, and then if I have that come up in a coaching meeting, then I can just pull up the record right there, and we don't have to fumble around with the spreadsheet. I can just go, oh yeah, look, here's the records of date, teacher, blah, blah, blah. The downside is I have to have my laptop because we typically work on Chromebooks, but we're working on that. I did ask about getting .NET access at work, and it's being considered. So that would make that a little bit easier for me, at least when I'm working at my terminal. I can use some C Sharp at that point to write some scripts to compile data or to analyze using LINQ. So there's a possibility that in the next couple months I can actually start to use C Sharp semi-professionally, which would be really cool. I'm not on the job hunt or anything like that. I like what I do. I like the organization that I work with. I like the role that I have. It would be silly to go totally change careers out of absolutely nowhere. But I do want to find ways to make this useful because learning for learning's sake is fun, but it's not sustainable long term. So I didn't get to learn a lot of new C Sharp this week. Partly that's because we're past newbie gains, and that's just the status quo now. Is learning anything is more complicated. But I got handed a lot of new responsibilities over the last 5 work days, and that really kind of slowed everything down for me in terms of home life, fitness, even professional stuff. I had to recalibrate a lot of what I'm doing and figure out how is this going to be sustainable for the next couple months. And that's okay, right? We should learn to pick up new stones and carry them, but when it comes to coding, it definitely did reduce the amount of time that I have. And consequently, when I got home, I was not in the mood to sit and code often. So instead, I actually did a lot of 3D modeling this week because I just needed an artistic output. And that's fine. What I did work on, though, is the 6th chapter of Unity in Action by Joseph Hocking. And that is all about building a memory game, which my older daughter, is just at the point where she's starting to understand when two things match. So I was like, this is a perfect way to build a project that somebody will enjoy. So I've been building her a memory 2D card game in Unity, and it's got, instead of the suits and numbers, it's got cats, so she can match cats and kittens. It's almost done. I kind of by Thursday I was like, I gotta take a break from working late at night on this stuff. So I demurred. I'm gonna finish it today. I just need to do the UI. The rest of the game functions, and I was able to follow the scripts with no issues. It really, it made sense. You use a for loop to generate all the different cards, and then at the each loop, you're instantiating a new version of the card, and then you're overwriting whatever is on the prefab of the card face to have a particular image out of an array that you use the inspector to set up. All that stuff, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's the initial shaky legs of, oh, it's weird to set it up. After 10 minutes of reading through it and documenting it for myself, I was like, oh, I understand this, and I can replicate this if I needed to. So that was cool. I just don't have it on my PC downstairs. I record downstairs because it's quiet. There's not children coming to and fro, and it's my workhorse PC. So I built the memory game on the laptop so I can put it up on the kitchen table and we can play the memory card game together. So I just don't have footage of it, but it's got 8 cards. You click one and then you click another, and if it's a match, they stay. If it's not a match, it waits 2 seconds and then turns it over so that she can see, oh, those ones don't match. It's just long enough for her to pick it up after some experimentation, and she can click again. Excuse me. It's early and I'm congested. So that was neat. That was fun. What I've got here on the screen is it's it's a canvas project, I guess, where I was throwing ideas to see if I understood how to put some things together totally on my own, because that was one of the litmus tests for working with Unity is, can I do things on my own after, a number of weeks, a number of months? That's really the goal. So what I've got are some primitives, a character capsule. Let me zoom in on the character capsule. Whoops. All right, close enough. I missed, but whatever. So I built a really rudimentary Halo-style building to learn about how the mesh colliders work. Let's see. Yeah, so there's the mesh collider. So I was able to get that working. I've got a drop pod that's way up in the sky. You can't see it, but it's way up there. And then we've got our friend capsule, who is not currently a character controller. That is something that I learned about after I put this together. This thing's a couple weeks out of date, but I thought I'd show you. So it's got a rigid body, which allows it to interact with physics, a capsule collider. I've got it frozen on rotating on these planes so it doesn't tip over. And what it can do, you can see here, is it can jump. That is currently the only power that Friend has. So if I make sure he's activated and play this, I was trying to figure out how can jumping work with a rigid body. I didn't know at the time about a character controller. That would be a new way that I would solve this. So maybe this week, when I finish memory and the platform that follows it, I will come back in and rebuild this. But basically, if I click, Friend will jump. And it's very floaty right now. You can see the drop pod fell. And basically, I can soar into the sky if I wanted to, like Superman. So I'm also using, this is the first time that I had used Cinemachine, which is a camera plug-in, module, package, whatever. So it's taking care of the camera, so it does this kind of thing, like it's I think it's called a slurp or a lerp, where the camera is just a slight beat behind the object moving, so you get a kind of natural camera follow movement. Right now, it's reached the point where it's centered. But if I were to click again, you can see it gets out of the center of the screen. So that's basic stuff that I had learned to do within maybe 2 weeks of converting to Unity, and then I had switched to the Hawking book to really learn the interface. And this is really what I've been focusing on is this stuff. So composition. So I'm starting to really get how I can have like 6 or 7 different scripts on one object that track different things like powers, movement, camera movement, inventory or character stats, the save game status, all of those things. I'm starting to understand how, unlike when I write in Visual Studio where it's in one solution, the editor is allowing me to see those different .cs files here, and then I can compose them together. So if I want a character that can jump, and a character that can slide, and a character that can pirouette, those might all be in different scripts, and then those scripts go into a list of available powers or something like that would be over here. So I'm starting to understand that concept, which I think that's a good thing. If I take my drop cam, this was composed sloppily for sure. Follow drop pod. Look at drop pod. Now you can see the camera scene just shifted here. And let's see. I gotta look at my drop pod. It's been a little bit. So here, let me see. I'm gonna pause real quick. Over here, you can see how that composition is starting to get put together. Now I don't have headers or spaces, so this is a little bit messy. But I've got a move speed, which determines how fast it falls, a bottom collider. When the bottom collider detects a collision, it will turn on is grounded, and when is grounded is turned on, then it will disable there's a downward thrust, basically braking burn, but it's downward thrust. So if I pull this sucker open into Visual Studio, whoa, that's hard to coordinate. Yeah, all right, so here's Visual Studio. So you can see this is messy. I didn't know how to organize this at the time. Update on close. So what happens is if it's grounded, it starts false, but then it looks for the component for the rigid body. I'd probably do a character controller at this point. I think. Although maybe not with this because it doesn't move very much. But I've got left and right exhausts, which are particle systems. I forget at the moment. It's been so long. But if it's not grounded, then we can move pod. And the move pod is a simple void, but basically it uses the A, D, and WS inputs to offer a slight bit of force around, and that's this braking burn force. So, and then activate thrusters is left and right exhaust set active. So this is me goofing around, really not knowing what to do, but I wanted to, here's your deactivating thrusters. I wanted to understand how to compose a script that would have some complicated stuff going on. And when you play it, sorry, I realize this is kind of dry and I'm already at 10 minutes. You can move them around, and I think, if you hold the space bar, it slows it down. So the idea is then you click and you spawn a character. Now this is, he's still jumping. This is based on that game that I've mentioned a couple times with the company that I do work for. That I guess, I do design work for. But you jump out of a drop pod and you fight as a mini. So we're looking at maybe doing something like this. So this is just me prototyping, trying to learn the editor. There's no gameplay here. The red guy doesn't move at all. The camera has no controls, really. So maybe in a couple months, he'll be able to move, and this will be less clumsy. But that is, that's where I'm at. So it was kind of a slow week. I'm enjoying working with Unity, even if a lot of the time I feel like I'm missing context. But we're getting there. The Hawking book is really good, and I'm really going slow to make sure that I understand what I'm doing. I'm writing out all the code on my own to make sure that I understand what it's doing. I'm documenting what each step is doing to learn methods, and I'm starting to really be able to pick up the pace. I'm just tired. So it's all right, because we're coming up on a break, and I think that's well needed. So next week, I don't know how much is going to get done. It is a holiday week. Maybe I'll record the memory game and give you a look at that. But I think that's it. We're just into slow territory, but slow, steady, and sustainable is how we learn over time. If every week is a cram session, nothing will stick. And that's where I'm at. I'm making sure that every week is not a cram session, but that this is a sustainable 52-week process. Because the first 20 weeks showed me I can learn C#. You can learn C#. We just need to be sustainable and focused on the long-term goal, which is get there. Doesn't matter how long it takes. Doesn't matter what the means is. But we got to get there. If we give up, we burn ourselves out, and then we give up. We didn't get there. We lost. So if you, like me, are learning to code, make sure you keep that in mind. We're about to start a new year. Don't go crazy with New Year's propositions. Just focus on sustainability. 20 to 30 minutes a day is way better than 2 hours a weekend. Okay? 15 minutes a day is way better than 2 hours on a weekend. So that's where we're at. There's my week 20. I went a little bit long, but it's neat. I like to poke back through this demo. I haven't looked at it in a while. Could definitely do more things with it now than what are here, which is good. And maybe it's time, when I finish this Hawking chapter, maybe it's time to come back to this and rebuild something. So, all right, with that said, I'm Coach T. This is my C# devlog. If you like this kind of walk with me through learning the skills and the honest, transparent dialogue about learning to code, consider subscribing to the channel or sending this to somebody else who is learning to code, because it's tricky, but it's not impossible, and it's something that I think more people would enjoy rather than doom scrolling, especially in today's day and age. So, all right, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm going to go get some coffee on this blustery, cold Sunday morning. Have a good week.